Hello everybody, it is time for the 2018 summer vote and news video from the OfficiallyDevin channel. So in this video I'll be talking about what's coming up on the channel and just things that I've got in store. No actual content. If you happen to be interested in what's going on with the channel and where we're going in the near future, then stick around for the following rant. We'll start off with the most important thing, the vote for the next NLP series. Barbarian Masters has come to an end, and thank you very much to everyone who watched and everyone who said nice things about the ending. It's always nice to hear that people do actually like watching the videos. For me it becomes quite a grind to make them, so it's easy to forget that there's actually any purpose behind the videos other than that my boss, aka myself, is forcing me to make them for some reason. So anyway, that was nice. The main point here is that we're going to replace the series with something else. What is that going to be? We don't know yet. That's where you come in. We're going to be doing another vote, and many of the options on this vote are actually ones that were on the previous vote as well and just came in the top half, so there'll be a few chances for redemption for ideas that lost out to honourable gentlemen recently. I'm basically just going through my list of credible NLP ideas I've got at the moment. It's a list of things that have some sort of substantiation or a little bit of thought put into them, although some of them aren't really. We'll see as we go along. They're in time order, so we're starting off with the older ideas. The link to the vote, by the way, I should mention, is in the description if you hadn't found it already. So you can go on there and vote for multiple options. You don't have to pick one thing, you can just vote for all the things you think that you would be interested in, and then it all just tallies up somehow at the end, and we'll see what sort of things end up near the top. And since Honourable Gentleman might end in the somewhat near future as well, I may end up taking a couple of things from near the top of the table to be the replacements rather than just the winner. So, fingers crossed for your favourite. So now I'll just go through the list and talk about each thing in a bit more detail in case you want more information on each one. And after that I'll be talking about some generic channel news, which you don't really need to hear. So if you're just here for the vote, you can go and vote right now if you like. The first option on there is Rome 2, Imperator Augustus, probably playing with Divide et Impera, as the Marcomannos, the Germanic tribe on the edge of the Roman Empire. The idea behind that campaign would first be to take parts of Gaul, because that was the overall goal of the Marcomannos tribe, was to steal lands from Gaul because they were slightly superior, and the only thing stopping them from doing it in the past had been the Roman Empire. I think they had tried to do it before and then been kicked out by the Romans once Rome started taking over Gaul properly. But now, the era in which the campaign takes place is one where Rome is starting to break up again because they're going through their big civil war, and they're likely to be significantly weakened by that, meaning that the border tribes like the Marcomannos can sneak in and start having their way. But of course in this campaign the end objective is probably going to be to destroy Rome itself in order to permanently cement their gains in Gaul and just generally win back freedom for the tribes of the area from the southern imperialists. I thought with that campaign I would throw in the added challenge run rule, not sure if it would really make it more challenging, that you're not allowed to trade with anyone, because I read somewhere that the Marcomannos had no industry. They were essentially a nomadic tribe that just survived off hunting and didn't really produce things and trade goods with other states, other polities. So for that reason, maybe there could be a challenge run rule that you can't trade with people, just for added simulation. Anyway, so that's that option. Next on the list is a combined option, two Warhammer things. I would make them two separate options, but in the previous vote, Warhammer did very badly, despite actually being one of the most requested things and a confusing twist. So I'm going to put it on again here, because personally I think it could be interesting to go and do a fantasy-style campaign, just because in the normal Total War games, there's not that much to work with. Like, the things that are going to happen in any campaign are going to be roughly the same, and we've seen them happen in a lot of the series that I've made, and there's only so much you can do with that material as like a creative, artistic project that an NLP is. So it's coming back anyway. Despite doing badly on the last vote, Warhammer's coming back. It's Warhammer 2 specifically in the Mortal Empires campaign, the one with the big map. and probably using the Steel Faith Overhaul mod. I haven't really looked into mods, but I definitely want to mod it in some way, because I don't really like the base game, and I think the mods look a lot better. Anyway, so the two specific ideas I was thinking for Warhammer, so this is what this option represents, are playing as either Alith Anar of the High Elves, or Belegar Ironhammer of the Dwarfs. Anar, aka the Shadow King, leads this group called the Nagarithians, a group of elves, an elvish kingdom that in the past had been shattered by civil war and produced the Dark Elves. So part of this kingdom went off to go and be the evil elves who were ousted from Elfland. And now, as the leader of the loyal Nagarithians, he has to sort of redeem himself, redeem what remains of his kingdom, because most of it was destroyed, by going on this eternal hunt, trying to destroy the Dark Elves, and in particular their leader Malekith. So to some extent I liked the idea that the whole campaign is about a one-on-one rivalry between Anar and Malekith, who are like the two sides, the loyal and the disloyal elves from the same place. And Anar's just trying to redeem himself in some way, but he's also kind of evil himself, because his thousands of years of bloodthirsty hunting have corrupted him a little bit, and I like that idea as well. He's kind of like in between the High Elves and the Dark Elves, which I thought was somewhat interesting, or more interesting than just the light and dark side anyway. So playing his campaign, and pretty much seeing what happens, because I've never played it, would be the idea there. The other idea was Belegar Ironhammer, where you're playing as this sidelined Dwarvish faction who have this one big grudge that they want to settle. They want to, in particular, take a settlement called Carrick 8 Peaks, which is quite far away from their starting position. And until you do, the game's really hard, so the mechanics of the game kind of force you to do it. So it's a somewhat linear campaign, I suppose, where you just have to try and take it at all costs in order to fulfill some grudges from ages past. You are the inheritor of this place that's been taken by goblins and orcs, and now your ancestors are really pestering you to try and get it back, and you even get a set of ghosts that helps you out on the campaign map, because they really want you to get it back, and get it back under Dwarven control, etc. So maybe the story would just be go and take that place. I have no idea how long it takes, but that's the idea. I thought there's a nice focus there for what we're doing in such a campaign. By the way, a lot of people who requested Warhammer also requested the Empire specifically, so it could be the Empire that I played as. I consider that an undeveloped idea in my list at that stage, because there's nothing particularly special about the Empire. It's just a normal campaign. You spend half the campaign fighting the rest of the Empire, because the Empire isn't a unified faction for some reason. And then you fight Chaos after that, and that's just sort of what you do. That's like the standard game experience, which I don't think is particularly interesting. I'm really just saying their name aloud in order to validate the fact that it was specifically requested. I don't expect Warhammer to win, but if it does, maybe we'll go back into those discussions later. Let's move on to the next thing. Another option that was on the last vote: Empire Total War, USA/13 colonies. This did quite well on the last vote, I think. The idea at first, originally, was to play as the 13 colonies, or play as the American Revolutionaries specifically, overthrow the 13 colonies, and then go on to invade England. But after testing things out with mods and stuff, I basically discovered it wasn't possible to do both of those things at once in one campaign. So in order to get both halves of the thing I was thinking would require me to play both the Road to Independence Part 3 campaign, a sort of mini thing that's in Empire Total War. It's part of the extended tutorial where you do the American Revolution, and then play a regular USA campaign afterwards. But maybe it would be easier to just do the USA campaign and not really focus too much on the American Revolution part. It's more about, it's like an extreme version of the American Revolution where they, in principle, after having freed themselves, they want to also help the people of Europe become free and get their good old worldwide revolution going. So they send an army to Europe, and the objective would just to have a scenario where the USA, or early USA, is fighting with Europe to overthrow monarchs. So maybe they wouldn't attack like the Netherlands, for example, who weren't particularly monarchy, but they'd probably try and bring down England, maybe France and Spain as well. And it would just be about seeing how that matchup played out. So The extent to which the American Revolution part is in the series is unknown at this point, because it would actually be a separate campaign, just be 2 campaigns played back to back with no particular link between them. I'm not sure whether the characters are the same at the start of the USA campaign or what have you, but that's the idea. The main downside to the idea is it's Empire Total War, so it will just be a massive glitch show where nothing works, as Sinews of War was, but that's also somewhat entertaining, I suppose. Now moving on, the next option. This was also on the last one in a very passing way. This was on the last vote. Now it's on this vote in a bit more of a serious capacity. Mountain Blade Warband with the Bella Imperium mod, Bella Imperii I think it might be called. The mod where it's set in the 2nd century, like 170 AD or something, near the height of the Roman Empire, and then it's just Mountain Blade. You have all the factions of the era and you do what you want. So that's a bit of an open proposition, but the specific thing I was thinking about was something along the lines of playing as a slave character. So playing as someone who maybe their parents were forced into slavery by the Romans, and at some point the people who they were working for were killed by a free state like the barbarians, and sort of inspires this slave character to look into freeing more people and creating more free tribes in order to go against the Roman Empire. So this is another option, another anti-Roman option like the Margamanos one before, where we'd somehow try and bring down maybe even part of the empire, but beginning at the very bottom just as a freed slave who starts with absolutely nothing and no skills or anything like that. It is a bit unclear what exactly would happen in that. I haven't planned it out at all, like with Naraka's Treasure, where I'd planned pretty much the entire thing before starting. And it would also, by the way, be a lot lower production value than Naraka's Treasure, because those episodes took too long to make. So, some kind of inferior version, but in the Bella Imperii mod. I don't know exactly what it would be, but I think it could be interesting. So if people want to change from Total War, and they want something Roman-themed, which is often popular, or anti-Roman themed, the Romans will be there and will probably be using their equipment, etc., then this is the option for you. There it is. Right, moving on to the next one. It's Total War Attila playing with the Ancient Empires mod, which recently has released. I don't think it's complete. It's in a beta state. It's like a version 1 beta or something like that at the moment. So while it's not done, you can play it, and it could be interesting to go in there and see just what exactly they've done with it and what the new mechanics do to the game as a whole. There aren't many playable factions, so we're quite limited in terms of what we can do with this mod at the moment. The 2 I was interested in are Armenia and Pergamon, both because they start off with only 1 or 2 regions, whereas the other playable factions are like Rome and Carthage, which are both giant, like the Seleucid Empire, which is giant. I think it's more interesting to follow a smaller number of characters, especially at the beginning, preferably just like 1 or 2. So Pergamon and Armenia would be good for that. I don't have any specific ideas for what we do in the campaign. It's really just a case of playing the game and seeing if it's different in Ancient Empires. Total War Rome 2-2, basically, how it plays out differently. Perhaps to make it different to the usual campaigns, because it's quite likely to just be really normal and play out as you might expect. I was thinking I could do a challenge run where it's like a 1-province challenge, so you can only really have your core territory controlled by you, and then to project your power you have to send expeditions out and create vassals and things like that, which would make good use of things like the supply system and possibly other new mechanics in the mod, and it would just make the game play out a bit differently, perhaps be slower and take place over a longer period of time and be more realistic in that regard. I don't know. I think it could be interesting. Potentially, if I did that, I'd get bored of it and decide, let's just kill everything later on. But that was an idea I had with that. So, vote for that option if you want to see some Ancient Empires. Although if you really, really want to see Ancient Empires, there may also be some argument to not voting for it in order to play it, you know, in a year when it's more done. Next up on the list is a new thing? No, I think this might have, in passing, been on the last vote as well. But anyway, the next thing is Stalker, Call of Chernobyl. So, Stalker, if you don't know, is a depressing FPS adventure sort of game, and Call of Chernobyl is a mod that takes all of the maps from the existing Stalker games, and some more I believe, and creates this non-linear, open world sort of new game. I don't really know what it is because I haven't played it, but I liked the look of it, and I thought it would be a good way to create some sort of original story in the Stalker universe. I thought it could be a very nice way to make use of Stalker's famous atmosphere and general depressing overtones to make something that's quite immersive and role-play-ish. And a nice way to have something that's not a strategy game, which so far I don't think has had much traction on NLP votes, but I will keep throwing them on until one day they get through. I'm going to force this through the house of the Offy D shareholders. Perhaps an alternative to playing as Call of Chernobyl, by the way, would be to use there's this hardcore mod called Misery, which makes the game really hard and miserable and like removes the UI and things and goes for super immersion, but I think you just die all the time as well. I don't know how that would go. And that would be more following the actual story of the game, because that's just a mod for the normal Call of Pripyat game, I think. So that's that option. The next option is another very vaguely considered mod. I think all of these, like at the lower half of the vote list, are ones that are just on here and I haven't really thought about or looked into, but I think if they win the vote I will, because I think there's potential. That's the idea behind these ones. Anyway, this next option was Total War Napoleon, possibly with the Great War mod. So we're kind of voting for either just a normal campaign in the Napoleonic era or with the Great War mod, which people often recommend, but people also recommend against. It's a mod that makes the game take place in World War I, and if you've played Total War Napoleon, you might imagine the potential problems there, in that the rules of the game don't really work for a World War I setting. I haven't played it myself, of course, and I've barely played Total War Napoleon, so I don't really have any commentary for or against it, so perhaps people who know more than me can make sure they're voting correctly here and write in the comments what they think this idea would be like. So it's just here, it's just here. If it does well in the vote, it may be considered for an abridged gameplay commentary, even if it's too unimmersive and broken to actually work as a narrative let's play, the Great War mod, that is. Alright, let's just move on to the next option. The next option is Thrones of Britannia. This is something that was requested relatively frequently since it just came out, but I haven't played it, so I don't have anything specific to say about this one, but I'm going to put it on the list just because it was requested. I think, from a sort of fleeting glance, my favourite option for playing in this game would be as one of the Gaelic Scots factions, because you can do the quest for the Scottish relic, the Stone of Destiny, which gives you some sort of focus for something to do in the campaign, I think, and something to make a story about. And I think the whole Vikings versus like Wessex thing is sort of played out, even though it's like the obvious choice. Everyone knows how it goes in the end, and I don't know. I'm just not especially like inspired to do Let's Create the Kingdom of England, the story. However, that actually might be more fun than playing as the Scottish Gaels and just hanging about in the corner of the map. Not really sure. So this option is on here for all the people who ask for Thrones of Britannia. If it does well, then I'll research it more and come up with perhaps a more substantial idea. The final option on the list is a really vague one. It's just Crusader Kings 2 / EU4. This is another option that's sort of here just because people have asked for it rather than any particular plan to do anything with it. The thing with these games is, if I was going to make a series, it would almost certainly be like the Rise of Arakamani series I did, where the episodes are really short, but they're only narrative, because I don't really know how I would do gameplay commentary on these games, considering that I don't really know anything about the games. So it would more like just be talking about things that happened, making a vague alternative history fiction thing with possibly related footage from the game there, and the game being the inspiration. So it would be more like that. Civilization was another game that I thought that same idea, that same structure, could be applied to quite easily. On the topic of Paradox games, by the way, people often ask about Hearts of Iron and Stellaris, and I don't have either of them, and I've never played them, so I don't know what to say about them, but they are on my radar, and funnily enough, I'm probably more interested in those games than I am in CK2 or EU4. Those two are just the ones that I have, because I got CK2 for free like 3 years ago and never played it until very recently. And EU4 I probably got for like, 10p on a Steam sale because it came with no DLC and is effectively unplayable. So that was good. But yes, those other two Paradox games might appear on the roster one day. One day I might actually play them more specifically. So that's all the options on the list for today. It's really similar, a really similar vote to the last one actually. It's mostly just the same things again, which is kind of a shame. I was like, there must be some amazing new thing I can put in there, but not really. It hasn't actually been that long since the last vote, so it is kind of the same stuff that's on my radar at the moment. I thought I'd give some honourable mentions while I'm here. XCOM is something I considered doing a narrative in. I only didn't put it on this list because it didn't do very well in the last vote, but on my personal list that would be quite high up of things I'd like to do. Another game I got recently is Sunless Sea, which some people had recommended I check out. I haven't played it at all, but I'm just name dropping it here. Name dropped. That's a game that is on the list somewhere, very deep down, needs lots more research. I've mentioned it before, I think, in a previous vote video, but quite high up on my personal list, this invisible list I'm referring to, would be something sci-fi-ish, so doing something like Elite Dangerous or X3, some sort of spacey story, because I'm interested in that. I haven't put it on this list. I think it might have been on one of the previous votes before and done very badly. I think it's too far away from the scope of this channel, I guess, to actually do it here, but I'm just name dropping that as well. That's there. Oh, another name drop was RimWorld. That was another game that had been recommended. I don't really know anything about it, but I was intrigued by the prospect whenever it was I looked into it, and it's been on my wish list ever since. So anyone who was hoping for RimWorld content, it is on the list, on the big mysterious list where a lot of the things on the list are written in invisible ink. There's all kinds of other things I thought about doing, but in a completely different way. So games or series I don't actually have any gameplay commentary in them, where it's effectively me just writing and acting out fan fiction in short chunks with potentially game footage from the game that inspired it in the background that isn't actually related to what I'm saying, so it's more like an audiobook or podcast. And there's all kinds of things that could be applied to, I think. So one day you'll get a Bioshock narrative Let's Play and it'll just be some original Bioshock story with unrelated Bioshock footage. You know, that's a very long-term ambition for what I could do as some sort of side project later on. But again, I think that's off the scope for this channel. I'm just saying it in case you wanted to hear my thoughts on this particular matter. Anyway, so that's all the things on the vote. It'll be open for a week-ish, so about this time next week I'll select the winner. It may or may not actually be the thing that's in first place. I think I mentioned this last time as well, that I have benevolent dictatorship rules and may arbitrarily shift around the results at the end if I think there's a much better idea or something comes to mind. But it's going to be based on the winners of the vote. And as mentioned, the things that don't become the narrative Let's Play might become the next narrative Let's Play after Honourable Gentlemen, or they might become abridged gameplay commentaries if I don't especially care about a story in the campaign, but people were interested in seeing gameplay and a commentary on it. So that's all to that. That's the end of the NLP part of this video. Let's move on to other news. In the abridged gameplay commentary videos that I'm doing, I thought I'd just do some more name dropping of things that may appear in the future. One is Medieval 2 Total War Rise of Three Kingdoms, the Three Kingdoms mod for Medieval 2, as it happens. And of course that's inspired by the fact that a actual Three Kingdoms game will come out at some point in like a year. So I thought, in preparation for that, I'd do a gameplay commentary on the best thing we have at the moment. Not sure what faction or anything like that, it's just an idea. Also, Thrawn's Revenge mod for Star Wars Empire at War that some people were recommending recently, that's on the list. Let's just go through my whole... I've got a list of things that are like prospective abridged campaign commentaries. Let's see, so we've got Rise of Three Kingdoms, Star Wars Empire at War with Thrawn's Revenge, Valkyria Chronicles, Oriental Empires, Nobunaga's Ambitious Sphere of Influence, Frostpunk, Company of Heroes, Battletech, Troubleshooter, that's like an XCOM-ish thing, Starpoint Gemini, can't remember what that is, and Steel Division Normandy 44, a World War II-ish thing. So there you go, there are some more name drops for you. Those are on the current list, and more things are being added all the time, of course. As for what's happening in the extremely near future, in a couple of days, Xenonauts, an XCOM-ish game, will start as the new abridged series. In This Is Content news, I've got this bus simulator series that I've made that will be released at some point, using Bus Simulator 18, truly the best bus simulator I've played in a while. I started filming another weird JRPG that I guess I'll have to play. Well, I haven't played it for ages. But yeah, so there might be some more weird JRPG content after the current set of weird JRPG content is over. And the other plan I had was to play second generation Pokemon, which I guess also falls into the weird JRPG content area, as it usually turns out. I'm always looking for more things that could be relevant to this content. It has to have a weird combination of being something that I'd actually be interested in playing and something I think would be fun to riff off and actually do a funny commentary on, which most games, while seeming suitable, I usually end up thinking, no, I'm not going to do that. Although that said, I initially, when I did the Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic This Is Content, I started it a really long time ago and thought, no, this isn't suitable for a This Is Content video, and then came back and just like re-edited what I'd done and then kept playing some more, and I was like, okay, this is exactly what I was doing for This Is Content. I don't know why I thought it was unsuitable. So I'm sure pretty much anything could be suitable in some way. So yeah, feel free to throw suggestions in the comments for that and for anything. Just write things in the comments. I've been name dropping all video. You can name drop other games in the comments if you like. Maybe I've heard of them. I don't know. I probably haven't played them because I haven't played many games, but feel free to name drop them, and that will put them in my sphere of influence so that I know that they exist, which will help out in some very abstract way. Alright, I mean, that's the end of news related to videos, I think. There's a few other news things to mention while we're here. A nice one is thank you to the audience for 20,000 subscribers. This year's goal for achieving a channel size was to get something between 20 and 25,000 subs, so we're there, we've reached the lower margin. Hopefully we can get somewhere in between nicely and it'll all be good. Generally the second half of a year is better for YouTube channels or gaming YouTube channels for mysterious reasons. So that should help out. It's going to be another successful year where everything doesn't collapse, which is the best you can hope for on YouTube. Although I do remember about 3 years ago or something I was predicting, looking at the analytics, and I was like, yes, when I have 20,000 subs, that will be the amount I need to do break even just through YouTube money. But of course YouTube then like melted over those last 3 years, so I've ended up actually making about the same amount of money as I do back then when I had like 5,000 subscribers. I guess the point to say in relation to this is a massive thank you to all of the OfficiallyDevin patrons who pay for everything. They literally keep the channel going, so a thank you from me and a thank you on behalf of the audience who are benefiting from their generosity as well. In other news, CA haven't messaged me asking me to be a voice actor for them, or begging as they would have to do, because I'm so high and mighty. They haven't begged me to be in their game after my recent audition tape that I sent out, so that's a shame. It looks like Three Kingdoms Total War isn't going to get some Dynasty Warriors 3 style voice acting, and it's very disappointing. Hopefully there'll be mod tools or something so we can go in there and sort it out in retrospect. We'll sort it out for them. I mean, in many ways the Total War games are reliant on mods to sort out various issues that players have with them. I remember when Warhammer came out, on day one, like massive aspects of the game were just being modded out in order to make it more in line with players' tastes, and CA was actually helping with that because I guess they knew it was going to be so useful. So, with any luck, they'll do the same thing with my new voice acting mod. Coming soon, probably. In other news, vegetables. Vegetable news. You might remember in previous news videos, I occasionally mentioned that I was growing carrots, and carrots. And a few of them are also still growing. The allotment that I've been growing things in isn't very good, but the soil quality is improving, ladies and gentlemen. There's hope for the future. I've been tilling it. We've been digging stuff. There's all kinds of things growing in there now, lots of misc in a very disorderly fashion, but there's hope for the future. I feel that the fate of my channel and the fate of my very soul is tied to the fate of the allotment, so if the allotment can be improved, maybe that means there's hope for the OfficiallyDevin YouTube project. What I should say is, for more insights on the channel and the life of Offy D on a semi-regular basis, you can always check out the OfficiallyDevin channel blog, which is on my website, which is in the link of most/all descriptions. It's a monthly blog where I just rant. I don't know, usually like you just get to some day and I'm like, oh, I should write a blog post, and I write whatever I'm thinking about on that morning. So it's not a very well planned or documentative blog. But yeah, there'll be something on there, and usually you can get some hints about what's coming up and how angry I am at various things on there. And here's another mention. For more of my beautiful voice, you can go to the Kings and Generals channel if you haven't already. It's a historical documentary channel making little small mini documentaries narrated by OfficiallyDevin, who you may have heard of. So there you go. If you want to learn some more history and hear my voice, you can do both at the same time on that channel. And it's all free, ladies and gentlemen. You can't complain about that, can you? That's going to be my ultimate excuse. If you don't like whatever series comes next on this channel, hey, it's free. You can hardly complain. Anyway, thanks for watching this news video / vote video. It's mainly a vote video. Thanks for watching this vote video, and I hope you'll vote, and we'll come back next week to see what we're going to do next. And hopefully, if it is something where it was a very vague idea, I'll put something together more substantial. It should be possible to tell what's going to win after a couple of days, so I can even prepare and come back with an actual idea around this time next week. So that's the plan. In the meantime, hope you'll enjoy the other videos that will continue to be spewed out as usual. Have a great day.